So this is the example of a void method clear form. So for the return point, so in the debug section, we will learn how to debug the code, right? So we can see what is the return point. So and also we have learned top-down design to modelize a program top-down design. So last time we were here, right? We tried to learn how we can pass arguments to methods. So basically, a method needs some input. That is idea. Okay, it needs some input. So the arguments are the inputs. For example, so a simple example is for the message box.show method. Okay. For the message box.show method, so it requires an input, which is a string. Okay. You see in this pair of parentheses, we need a string. In this example, it is hello, string hello, as the input. Then the message box.show method can display the message hello. Okay. The idea is, at first, we need a pair of parentheses for any method. Okay. If you define a method which has no input, for example, void, clear form, right? Still, we need a pair of parentheses, okay? If you don't have that pair of parentheses, so C# will give you an error, okay? You have to fix it. The second thing is, in this pair of parentheses, we need some arguments or input, okay, input. So another example is, for example, what we want to display the value. Inside this pair of parentheses, we need a int value. Okay, int value. So this has to be a int number. So when we call, remember I use the term call. Call means we have defined the method somewhere. Okay. Now we want to use it. When we want to use it, we call the method. We call the method. So we call the method display value. So we need an input. Remember, input has to be there because if this is the definition of the display value method, it requires an input. When you call the method, but there is no input, then C# will give you an error. Okay, give you an error. That is an important concept. Why? Because advanced quantum analytics algorithm. For example, in our department, if you take data mining course or statistics mining course, it will require to use R. Okay, so a lot of existing packages are available online. It means if you want to use it, you download it from internet, okay, and put it inside R. Then you can use it directly. You don't need to build all the code from scratch. Okay, you can just use it. However, when you check the help document to see how I can use it, you will see that it is a method with a pair of parentheses. Inside this pair of parentheses, you have a bunch of different parameters or arguments, okay, parameters. So usually for such a package, the total number of parameters or arguments will be very large. In total, it requires a lot of different arguments, okay? But for a good package, it will give you flexibility. For example, if I have 10 parameters, 10 arguments, which it means that in this display value example, we only have one, right, value. So in some advanced packages, you may have 10, okay, parameters. So when we have 10 parameters, so it is very inconvenient for us to put all the 10 parameters, right? Each time we need to use it, we need 10 different parameters. It is very inconvenient, okay? So in this case, usually a good package can give you some flexibility. It can allow you can just provide 2 key parameters. That's it, okay? Or you would like to provide 3 among the 10 parameters, okay? or sometimes it may provide 6, 7, maybe 10. It can give you the flexibility. Okay, so that is how people develop those methods or packages. Okay, it means in the future, for example, you are interested in data analytics, you're interested in data mining algorithms, machine learning algorithms. Okay, so you would like to write some code. Okay, and you would like to write some how should I say, online packages for other users, right? In this case, you need to give them flexibility, something like this, right? Can allow them to use 1 parameters, 2 parameters, or all parameters. So in this case, we have not written any code, right, to allow flexibility. It means when we use the display value method, we have to provide one int number. It means if we have no input, then there is an error. Okay, that is an important concept. Okay, in this method. So we learned the parameter is a variable declared in a method header that receives an argument that is passed into the method. Okay, it means so we need a int input. Okay, and displays a message. Okay. So we can also, for example, pass a int variable x, right? Or 4 times x, because 4 times x is also a int variable, which is 20, as an argument. However, if we do not have a int variable, instead we have a string, the 700 string, 3 digits. When we would like to use this as an input, we need to transform, right? Transfer the three digits string 700 to 700. Okay, by using the method int.parse method. Okay, you can see int.parse method is also a method. Okay, it also requires a pair of parentheses. Okay, it is required for any method. So last time we are here, argument and parameter data type compatibility. So an argument data type must be assignment compatible with the receiving parameters data type. So you can pass only string arguments into string parameters. For example, in the message box.show method, okay, it has to have a string as an input. If you try to put a number, right, or an int number, a decimal number, double number, then C# will give you an error. Okay. So you can pass int arguments into int parameters, but you cannot pass star, double, or decimal arguments into int parameters. It means, so in this case, right, display value, the required input type is int, right? If you put 5, okay, x equals 5, it is okay. However, equals 2.5, and you put x here, you will have an error, syntax error. Okay, you have to fix it. Or you put a decimal number x equals 2.5m, right? It is also an error. Okay, it is also an error. So you can pass either double or int arguments to double parameters, but you cannot pass decimal values into double parameters. We have learned this before, right? For double parameters, it can be compatible with both double and int. Okay, but it cannot adapt to decimal type. Okay, decimal type. So you can pass either decimal or int arguments to decimal parameters, but you cannot pass double arguments into decimal parameters. Similar idea, right? So for decimal type of parameters, so it can be compatible with what? With both decimal and int. However, it is not compatible with double numbers. Okay, double numbers. So when you build your own project, you have to be careful about this kind of issue. Okay. So in previous semesters, sometimes some students, okay, they made this kind of problem in their projects. So sometimes they use decimal, sometimes use double, okay? So it's mixture in their projects, okay? But when they try to use these variables here and there, you got a bunch of errors which they cannot fix. So C# will tell them that so some variables are not compatible with each other, but they cannot fix because sometimes use decimal, sometimes use double, right? So in this course, at least in this course, in order to make things simple, try to simplify the task for you. So you can stay with only one type. Okay, for example, decimal. Because if you remember the difference between decimal type and double type, you will remember that the key difference is double will give you a wider range, right, of floating numbers. Decimal is a narrower range, right? That's a key difference. But you see, in this course, most of the time we deal with dollar values, $300, $3,000, which is very small, okay? Which is definitely inside the range for decimal. That is enough for this course, okay? In order to make things simple for you, in order to avoid those kind of problems, right? Okay, you can try to stay with decimal, okay? Decimal. It can help you avoid those problems, okay? Problems. So this is parameter compatibility. So in the previous example, we just passed one parameter, right? Display value, this method. Display value, there is only one parameter, int value, for this method, okay? It means when we want to use it, we can only use one number, one input. So as I just mentioned, a method can allow any number of parameters, but usually as a good programmer, right, you will not set up too many parameters. For example, let's assume there is a method, you design a method, which is a package for data mining. But that method requires 100 parameters. Then it is sure that nobody will use it because it's impossible, right? Nobody will try to assign 100 parameters in this method to use your package, okay? So usually you need to limit the number within 10, okay? And you give user flexibility. Sometimes they can only assign one parameter and use it. Sometimes they only adjust 2 parameters. For the other parameters, you can have default setup, right? It means if the user does not want to set up those parameters, you have some backup plan, default values for these additional parameters, okay, additional parameters. So for these kind of concepts, we will not go into details in this course because this is a first programming class, okay? We will focus on the fundamental or basic concepts in computer programming, okay? So we can pass multiple arguments into the methods, okay, to a method. For example, in this one, right? So in this method, so we have a show button one click method. Inside this event handler, inside this event handler for the show button, so there is only one, right? Only one line of statement, which is show max. Show max is not a default method inside C#. It is a self-defined method by the user, okay? By the user. So you can see that. So this is the definition of show max. Okay, show max. So you may have noticed that the type is void. It means there is no return value. Okay, there is no return value. So inside this pair of parentheses for the method show max, we have 2 parameters. The first one is int number one. The second one is int number 2, okay, number 1 and number 2. Then we have a bunch of statements inside, right, inside, to find the maximum number between num1 and num2, okay? So let's assume we have designed this method. One in the method void show max, okay, show max. When we find the maximum, we display the maximum, right, inside a message box, okay, in a message box. So if that is a definition, then you see that we can call the method inside these two event handlers, right? The first one is show button 1. The second one is show button 2, okay? And we have two parameters. The thing you need to be careful is the two parameters are separated by a comma, okay? It means if you have multiple different parameters, these parameters have to be separated by commas, okay, commas. In this example, there are two input parameters, num1 and num2. They are separated by one comma, okay, one comma. And you see that first time when I call the method show max, I have two arguments, 5 and 10, as the input, right, as the input. So for the second time, you know, show button 2 click event handler, right? So we have value 1 and value 2 variables. Both are int, right? So value 1 equals 2, value 2 equals 3. So we can also use these two variables as the input, okay, as the input. So when you call a method, if there are multiple parameters, okay, you need to make sure that all these parameters are there when you call it. For example, if I want to use show max 5, only one parameter, 5. That's it, without this part, without this, okay? Without this comma 10 part, okay? I want to have show max 5. Then this is an error. Okay, C# will tell you a parameter, an argument is missing, okay? Is missing. You have to have all the parameters, okay? Parameters there. So named arguments. So C# allows you to specify which parameter an argument should be passed into. The syntax is parameter name with value, okay? So argument that is written using this syntax is known as a named argument, okay, named argument. So what is that? So it is, for example, this is event handler show button click, show button click. So in this method, okay, in this event handler, we only have one line of statement, which is a method, right, which is a call, which we call a self-defined method, show name, okay, show name. And we have last name, Smith, first name, Susan, right? So, and in the definition of the method, show name, okay, show name, you see that we have two parameters. The first one is string first name. The second one is string last name, okay, string last name. So these two parameters are separated by a comma, Inside this method, inside this show name method, we have a message box.show method, first name plus a space, right? Plus last name, which is string concatenation, right? Remember, it is string concatenation. Basically, we would like to display what? Display the full name, right? The full name of the guy from the input, okay? From the input. But you must notice, right? In this method, private void show name method, the first argument is string first name, okay? The second argument is string last name, okay? We have first name, which is a string, as the first parameter, last name, which is also a string, as the second parameter. It is first name, then last name, right? It means if we would like to call the method with first one, it is Susan, okay? String Susan. Second one, it is Smith. Then C# will plug in, right? Susan as first name because first name is the first parameter. Smith as the last name, okay? Plug in, right? Because in the definition part of the method show marks. First name is a string, it is the first parameter. String last name is also a string, and it is the second parameter. So when you set up this Susan and Smith, Susan will be first name, Smith will be last name, okay? Plug in. However, because in this case, right, first name, there is a name of the variable, first name. There is also a name, last name, right, for this variable. We can reverse. You see in this line, right? In this line, when we call the method show name, okay, show name, inside this pair of parentheses, the first parameter we set up is what? It is last name. It is not the default order, right? When we define the method, the first parameter is string first name. The second parameter is string last name. But in this call, we set up last name is Smith, okay? First name is Susan. Basically, we tell C# in this call of the show name method, we are not following the default order, okay? We will put last name first, first name second, okay? However, in order to let C# know this, okay, we will use the name of the parameter because we have defined the name of the second parameter is last name. We tell C# last name, which is the second parameter, it is Smith, okay? First name, which is the first parameter of the method, it is Susan, okay? Then with this call, C# can understand, oh, even though we put Smith first, but Smith is actually the second parameter. It is not the first parameter, first name. It is the second parameter, last name, right? So for the second one, first name, Susan, C# can understand Susan is first name, which is the first parameter in the method, okay? So with this call, C# can still display the full name, Susan Smith, okay? So with a normal call, right, just put Susan as a first input, Smith as a last input, right? With this regular call, we still can see the message, Susan Smith, okay? It means that you have multiple different ways to call this method, okay, to call this method. So from this slide, you may have noticed I'm worried. I explained too much of all these things, okay? You may feel that, oh, it is not worth it, okay? Why I explain all this? Because this is the way you learn programming by yourself, okay? You learn some basic thing in the beginning. When you build your own project, you will have a lot of different problems, okay? It is for sure. The best way to solve these problems is to what? Is to search the help documents. Okay, sometimes, for example, I want to say, what will be, how can I use the method message box.show? Okay, I don't understand. I want to search it. If you search it, in Google, you search Microsoft Visual Studio C# message box.show method. So it will give you a very long documents. Okay, very long documents. When you try to learn this method by yourself, okay, you have to go through the description of the method first. Then the most useful thing is the example, okay? You read the description first a little bit, but it is very difficult to read it. Let me tell you why. You can see that, for example. Let me give you a very simple example, okay? Let's search, okay? Microsoft Visual Studio C#, right? Message box show, right? Because when we use it, right? When we use it, it's simple, right? Just put a string inside. That's it. Okay, simple. This is a help document for message box.show method, right? In Microsoft website, you see. Let's go through all the things, okay? Can you imagine you can read all of them? No, it's very difficult. To be honest, it is even impossible for me. It is just for such a simple method, message box.show. For other method, you search, it is even longer. You can see I keep scrolling down, you see, right? It is just for such a simple, very simple method. So long, right? Very hard to read, okay? For other methods, if you search online, Microsoft Visual Studio C# or other documents, it is very, very long, very hard to read. In this case, you will try to locate the part you are interested in, because if you try to read everything, it takes days, okay? It's impossible. You try to locate where I want to use it. For example, I want to just show a string. Don't do other things. I click this, right? I go there, okay? I locate the part I'm interested because in this example, actually, we only learn this part. We have not learned any other option, right? This is the only thing we have learned, right? We go there, we see that, oh, so it requires a string as the input, right? So it is a string, and there is an example, right? You locate the part you are interested in first quickly, read the description quickly, go to the example, right? You try to connect the concept you have read from the document. Connect then the concept to what? To the example here. Okay, that is always how you learn it, because for computer programming, you can always improve yourself, because you can see for such a simple method, right? In order to know everything, you have to read a very, very long document. Okay? Then what kind of a document you have to read for a very complicated method? It is much longer, it is more complicated, right? For this one, you locate the part in this document you are interested in, you read it quickly, then you go to the example to see what's going on there. Then with 5 minutes, you can understand what's there. That's how you learn it, okay? Which is why I explain things here. Here, this is the concept, okay? This is a concept. And this is the example, okay? So in this example, you try to understand what is the key idea here. In this example, the key idea is you do not need to follow, right, the order of the parameters in the definition of the method. Okay, you can use any order, but in this case, you have to use named argument, right? This is how you learn it in any future course. Okay, data mining, statistical data mining, big data analytics, exploratory data analysis, data visualization, right? All these kind of advanced courses in data analytics, right? This is how you learn it for computer programming, because it is very difficult to read everything. It is impossible. Okay, you should not have the ambition to read. I try to read the whole document of one method because it's impossible. Even though, for example, I have mentioned for the package, right? For the package, okay, package. So for a package, right? When you go to online document, you will see it is long. You have to locate the part you are interested in and try to locate, go to the example quickly, get in the idea in 5 to 10 minutes and use it immediately, okay? Otherwise, it will take hours, days to read the document, okay? In this lecture, you will see that in every single lecture, in every single slide, right? So materials will not be too challenging. It is not too difficult. However, computer programming is consistent, each component is a small piece, okay, with a long document, okay? You have to learn how to program in this way, okay? You see that in this course, I will not only try to teach you how to program in C#, but tell you in general in the future how you can learn programming by yourself, okay? Because it's a long way to go, okay? And most of you, you are students in our department, which is degree is BARS, right? BARS. But for most of you have not learned too many courses in business analytics. Usually, you will have some courses in your last year, maybe in your third year, okay? So in order to learn as much as possible from these courses, you have to have a strong programming background, okay? And this course is a start. You start from there, and when you finish, you are not done, okay? You just start. You have to continue building your programming background, okay? This is how you learn it, okay? How you learn it. So named arguments. So we can also have some default arguments. That is the idea I mentioned, right? You see, C# allows you to provide a default argument for a method parameter. So private void show max. In this example, we have show tax decimal price. For the second one, we have decimal tax rate equals 70%, 7%. What is that? Decimal tax rate equals 7%. It is the user can have some flexibility. If the user would like to set up tax rate to be 8.5%, okay, then the user can do it. It's fine. If the user want to use the default setup, 7%, then the user can use it, okay, no problem. Then in this kind of definition, you can observe the flexibility, right? The flexibility. If I'm a user who does not want to change the default setup, I just need to what? Need to have one input, right? For the price, which is $100. Okay, that's good enough. In this case, I just have one input, $100, and the default tax rate equals 7%. That's it. Okay, that's it. However, I'm in historical accounting. The tax rate has been updated to 8.5%. Okay, I would like to update it for your 8%, right? In this case, I can override, right, the default argument as $100 as the price, 8% as the tax rate. Okay, now there is some flexibility for the user. Actually, for these advanced guys, right, when they build the package online, right, build online packages, so they have this kind of flexibility. There are default parameter values, so there are also required parameters, okay? You see in this definition, if I just put one parameter, one argument, 100.0m, that is correct. There is no error in C#. If I would like to put both arguments, 100.0m and 0.08m, it is also correct, okay? Because in this case, I override the second parameter, okay? Override the second parameter. This is the default, we set up default arguments, okay? So in the future, I hope some of you can learn more and more advanced, right, parameters, and be a professional. Because you remember that in recently, I think it has been for a long time. If you go to YouTube, right, YouTube, sometimes you see ads. In this couple of weeks, it is for election, so it's not interesting. But in previously, you will see some different ads, okay? I still remember one common ad is, so US is short of 500,000 machine learning engineers. Okay, machine learning engineers. So it means, okay, it means if you have such a background, you will be very popular. Okay, so in our department, we have a student. Okay, he's not full-time, part-time PhD student. He is the machine learning manager in PwC Bank, okay, in Tampa. Okay, in Tampa. How he got promoted to this position? Okay, he originally he worked in Fed. Okay, so when he got married, okay, he was short of money, so he moved to a different job in PwC. He was just engineer at that time, okay, but he was pursuing a PhD of department. He knows something. He knew something in machine learning. He's not an expert. He knew something, okay. He took master level courses. He knew something. So in PwC Bank, at that time, they would like to build a team in data analytics. They had no any person in this domain. So he was only guy in the company and know something about it, right? Then he was promoted to the manager position, okay? And that time, in his group, he is only guy. He's a manager, no other person, okay? Then he hired 2 or 3 other persons. His team now have 4 to 5 persons. It's still hiring this kind of people, right? And because he's the only guy, both in financial industry and machine learning in Tampa area, other companies, they try to grab him to their companies. Okay, he's very popular. Okay, because he's working with me, so he was very. We met yesterday. He was very excited by all these kind of opportunities. Okay, my comment is, so this thing is technical, but it's very popular. Okay, you will be able to get a very good position if you are expert. Or if you're expert. For example, when I was in China, I had a student. I'm his mentor, college mentor. Okay, my student. So when he graduated, he went to UC Berkeley for a PhD in machine learning, and his work is to build deep learning algorithms, online packages. Okay, he built a software for deep learning. Now he is a senior expert in Google for deep learning. He's very famous. Okay, he's very famous. What I want to say is, you are students in business analytics. You have the opportunity to learn how to program. You have the opportunity to learn advanced courses. We try to offer you advanced courses. Okay, if you really learn something, you will be very popular. You will benefit for your whole life. Okay, don't treat this course as a burden. I can see that for some of you, you feel that, so this course is not fun. It is not interesting, right? It is some burden. So it took me a lot of time, and sometimes if I did not spend effort, I got a poor grade, okay? This is a very useful course. It's a start of your business analytics path, okay, career. If you cannot have a strong background in this course, your career on this path cannot start. Okay, you're always a traditional business student. You cannot do this kind of fancy things. Okay, so try to stay there and get motivated to learn these things. That's my objective, because I can see, based on my personal observation, I can see that for some of you, right, you started to lose interest because you are tired first. And it is the second half of the semester, you have a lot of other things to do, okay? You start to lose interest. But to be honest, in order to get into this very fancy, fantastic industry, career, this is the first step. Without the coding programming background, so learning any other courses is just a story. It's just something in the sky. You cannot realize it. Okay, that is my comment. Okay, try to get motivated. Sometimes you may notice that I have to explain a lot of details. It is not because I'm boring. It is because I try to explain details to you, which can help you to move forward. Okay, that is my objective. So let's see some examples. The first example is, so if we have declared display value method as follows. Display value, we have a int value. Message box.show, we use toString method, right? What will be the output from the following statements? First, we declare x equals 5, okay? Then we call the method display value. In the argument, we would like to use argument x divided by 2, okay? For this, first, you need to understand how to call a method. Second, x is 5, x is an int, right? 5 divided by 2, int divided by 2 will be 2, not 2.5. Okay, because 2.5 is a floating number. So the 0.5 part, the floating part, will be cut off. Okay, will be cut off. So the output will be, we will see a message 2, okay? 2, not 2.5. So for the second example, if method display value is defined as above, are the following statements correct? So the first one it is quote, double quote, 700. I use 700 because it is a string, not a number, right? So display value requires an input input. 700 double quote is a string, so it is wrong, okay? For the second example, display value 3.4m. 3.4m is a decimal number. It is not int. Remember, int can only be compatible with int. Decimal can be compatible with int and decimal. In this case, the parameter is int. It can only be compatible with int itself, right? So when we use a decimal number, 3.4m, so it is an error. Okay, it is an error. So in the midterm exam, right, you can see that sometimes I may give you a couple of statements and ask you to find errors. Okay, that problem is to test you if you are very clear about the concepts. Okay, in this case, for these two different statements, you should be able to figure out all the errors. Okay, all the errors. So this is the third example. If we have declared display value method as follows, in this case we have a decimal, right? Decimal parameter, decimal value. So are the following statements correct? First one, double quote 7.1m is a string, not a number, so it is an error because decimal cannot be compatible with string. Okay. For the second one, 3 is an int number. Decimal can be compatible with both int and decimal. Okay, so it is correct. For the third one, we first declare a variable x equals 3. It is int, then display value x. Because x is int, decimal is compatible with both int and decimal, so it is also correct. Okay, you have to be very clear about this basic concept because another objective for this course is to make sure that when you write, for example, 10 lines of statement by yourself to achieve some simple objective, you can do it by yourself. You write it without any help, without any problem. It is fully correct. It is very, very important. Why? Because in the future, let's assume you write some code with 500 lines of statements to analyze a data set. Okay? There are 500 lines of statements. If you cannot guarantee when you write 5 lines, it is correct, you will make up different mistakes, different problems in every single line. Sometimes you miss a capital letter. Sometimes you miss a semicolon. Sometimes you miss a pair of parentheses, right? You miss all this kind. You mix all these kind of mistakes in every single line. Can you imagine? You can finish these 500 lines of statements. To be honest, 500 line statements is just for a very small project. For a reasonable big project, you will write 20,000, 50,000 line statements, okay? That's why in the exam, I ask you to type. In previous semesters, we have in-class exam. You write, right? You write or type the answer without any help. Try to make sure that you are professional and you can make simple things without making any mistake. Okay, that is the objective of those kind of problems. Okay, those problems. Okay. So before we move on to next section, so let me explain and before we learn this passing arguments by reference. So the concept is, let me see, where's my stuff? Okay. So I use the example we have learned, okay? This one, right? This one, okay? This is the concept, okay? This is the method, okay? This is the method, okay? So this is a very important concept in advanced computer programming, but it is too complicated. I try to explain a little bit in this course, okay? In this course. This is the method I copied from the slides, right? And let me see that this is these are the two lines of statements I try to execute, okay? Okay, so on the top, we declare or we define the method display value. Okay, in the bottom, we try to call it. We don't do x divided by 2, we just display x to make it simple, okay? Display x to make it simple. So when we call the method, we first declare a variable x equals 5, okay? Then display value x, okay? Display value x. When we try to x, right? C# is actually going into this method, right? Execute all the statements inside, then get out. That's the logic, right? That's the logic we have learned last time. What I want to explain here is, so when we declare the int variable x, right? We create a variable in the memory. For example, you have 6 GB memory, 8 GB memory, right? In the memory, and assign its value to be x. Okay, x. Okay. So if I try to explain my idea, okay, what I want to say is, okay, let's assume no. Okay, I would like to see this. Assume it's memory, okay? Because it's unit by unit, right? Storage unit, memory by memory, okay? So let's assume, right? I create X, okay? So it basically so this okay, this is my X, okay? I pick a piece in the memory, then create a variable X, put its value as 5, okay? That's a basic process, okay? I try to use a picture to explain this process, okay? It means in your computer, in the physical memory, X is stored somewhere, right? Stored somewhere. And I use a block to represent variable X, okay? Variable X. Now let's go back to this one, right? I create a variable X, right? It's 5. That's it, okay? The next one it is display value X. Okay, display value X. It is we would like the display value method to have an input. The input is what? The name is value. The value is X, right? The value is X. So then we have two options. The first one is, let's assume, right? And we have display value, right? Display value. And inside we have a int value, right? We have a int value as the input, okay, as the input. This is abstract concept, but I try to explain a little bit because it is important for advanced programming techniques, okay? So this is my display value, right? I need an input value. And when I call it, I try to call X, okay? So when I call X, I try to plug in intuitively, right? I plug in X here and display the value, right? But in computer, how we plug in? Do we put X directly inside the pair parentheses, or we do something different, right? For example, we put this inside here, we need some value, right? We put this block, right? Are we going to put this block directly here? Or we do something else, okay? The answer is we don't do this. We don't put the block directly. Instead, we do this, okay? Let me explain. That's very important for the next chapter or next section, okay? Instead, and first, okay, we find another location. Make a copy of X, okay? We don't process the original X. We don't use it directly. Instead, we try to make a copy of this block. Okay, you can see that I try to use graph to explain the concept. Okay, we don't use this block. This is original X. Instead, we find another block, empty block. We make a copy of the original X. Okay, it is just a copy, and we use this copy. Okay, let me give. Okay, I use this copy, right? I actually plug in this copy in this parameter. That is a very, very important concept, okay? Why it is important? You see that because Now we are processing a copy, right? Inside this display value, no matter what kind of thing will happen to this copy, right? The original X is still there. It does not change, right? It does not change. It is always the same. We are using processing the copy, okay? When C# finishes this method, the call display value, the copy will be deleted, okay? When the display value method is done, the copy will be deleted and this copy will be freed. It's gone, okay? That's a very important concept in advanced programming language because sometimes you want to keep the original variable, but use a copy. That's it, okay? Sometimes I do want to plug in the original copy because when the method manipulates the original copy, I want to keep the change, okay? In this case, it related to this concept in the slide, which is pass arguments by reference, okay? Pass arguments by reference. In Python, C++, Java, C#, all these programming languages, this is abstract. It means complicated, but important concepts. Okay, important concepts. So it is a reference parameter is a special type of parameter that does not receive a copy. Okay, does not receive a copy of the argument's value. Instead, it becomes a reference to the argument that was passed into. It means so we don't pass a copy. Instead, we try to pass the original variable. Okay, that is reference. Okay, that is reference. When you build a large project, you need to deal with this issue time to time, always. Because for a method you are going to write, you have a lot of input parameters. For some, you are okay with copy. For some other things, you need to deal with the original variable. Okay, the original variable. That is reference. So here we have in C#. So when an argument is passed by a reference to a method, the method can change, right? Can change the value of the argument that exists in the calling code. It means when we do reference, right? The original X variable is passed to here. When you manipulate it, change its value, the original X is changed, right? If we deal with the copy, this one, right? No matter what kind of thing happens to this one, the X is still the same. Okay, that is the concept here. Okay, concept here in the slide. So for example, here we have private void set to 0. We use ref int number. In this case, we try to pass the original variable. You can see we do number equal to 0. When we do this, right? If we pass X, okay, we pass X to this method, then X will equal to 0 when the method finishes. Okay, finishes. That is an abstract but very, very important concept in advanced programming language. Okay, I give you this graph, right? With this picture, it is easier for you to understand, right? What's going on there? Why it can be changed? Because we are passing original X variable to the method. Any changes, any manipulation, right, will be kept on the original variable X. Okay? So to call a method that has a reference parameter, you also use the keyword ref before the argument in the method call. Here you see that int my variable is 99, right? And when we try to pass the original variable my var to the method set to 0, you use ref. It means the variable myvar will be passed, okay, not the copy. Okay, we pass the original variable to the method directly. Okay, that is a very, very important concept. Okay, it is not easy to understand, but I try to use a picture to explain to you. You have idea, right? So without ref, we pass a copy. So we will have original variables, you have a copy, right? Anything happens to a copy will not affect the original variable. However, if we pass the original variable to the method, then any changes, right, will be kept, right, on the original variable. Sometimes it is not desirable because I just want to use it variable. I do not want to change its value. In this case, we do a copy, right? Sometimes we do want to keep what? Keep all the changes on the original variable. In this case, we use ref, okay? We use ref. In C#, in C++, in Java, in these other programming languages, the keyword may not be ref, but this concept is the same. They may have different syntax, different keywords, right? But the concept is the same. They may not use the keyword ref, but they have other keyword to use. This concept is very similar. Okay? I hope we will not go too deep on this topic because it will become more complicated. But at least, right, from section 6.4, you know something about it, right? Now you know that, oh, in the programming language, we have this concept, okay? In the future, when I learn the concept with more details, I know something. It's not, okay, I know something. It means you can build upon what you have learned from this course, okay? I'm not trying to make sure that you'll be professional after this course. It's impossible, right? However, it's the start. From the starting point, right? You can learn Python, you can learn SAS, you can learn R. In the next course, right? With actual algorithms, okay? That this course is a start, okay? That is why I emphasize it, okay? So the next concept is using output parameters. An output parameter works like a reference parameter with the following difference. So an argument does not have to have a value before it is passed into an output parameter. A method that has an output parameter must set the output parameter to some value before it finishes executing. You see, for the ref, right, we have to have some value, 99, right, before we use it. Otherwise, set to 0 cannot use it, right? But for output, because it is for output, right, we can use it without assigning any value from it. For example, in this example, right, if we just declare myvar without equal to 99 part, okay? If we use ref, it's error. We need a value, but if we use output, right, it's okay. It's correct, okay? And the second thing is, in the method, we have to set up the value of the number before we finish. You see, in this example, we set number equal to 0. If we don't have it, it will be an error for output, okay? There has to be a statement to set up the output parameter value before the method finishes, okay, finishes. So to call a method that has an output parameter, you also use the keyword out before the argument, okay? We use out keyword, okay? Same thing for this concept in Java, in C++, in Python. They may have different format and keywords, but the concept is the same, okay? The concept is the same. So we have some examples. Example 1, so we declare the method set to 0 as follows, okay? We have private void set to 0. In this case, we use ref, number equal to 0. What will be the value of the variable x after we execute the following statements? In this case, x equals 5, we do ref, right? So x equal to 0, okay? In the second example, we declare the method set to 0 as follows. So what are the problems, right? So remember, for output, we need to set up the value of number before we finish. So the value of the variable number is not set in the method, okay, before the method finishes, okay? This is the error. This is error. So before that, let's go to this value return a little bit before we finish. So the next concept is value returning methods. So this is the second type of the method. Unlike a void method, a value returning method is a method that returns a value to the part of the program that called it. In this case, when we finish the method, a value will be returned. Okay? For example, so in this case, int number is int parse. Int parse will transform the string 100 to a number 100, then return the 100 to the method, right? That's why we can set int number equals to this one, okay? If this method is void, then this is an error, because with this equal sign, right, a value has to be on the right-hand side, okay? If it is void, there will be no value returned. So, however, a value return method is in ways. So it contains a group of statements that performs a specific task. So when you want to execute the method, you call it, okay? The .NET framework provides many built-in value returning methods. For example, dot parse, right? In.parse, decimal.parse, double.parse. We have a return value from it, okay, from it. So we can build our own value returning method. The general form is, first, same thing, access modifier, public or private, right? Data type, it is return type, int, decimal, or double, right? Then name of method. Method name will be what? Pascal case, right? Camel case. Pascal case is all words will start with a capital letter, okay? Then we have a list of parameters inside this pair of parentheses, okay? Pair parentheses. So inside the method, you can have all kinds of statements, but for eventually, you need a return value. Okay, that's a key difference, okay? We need a return value. So for access modifier, data type, method name, statements, or parameter list, these are the same as the avoid method. They are the same, no problem, but you need a return value. This is the additional part, okay, for value returning methods, okay? So for example, this is one example. So there must be a return statement inside the method that is used to return a value to the statement that called the method. For example, in this one, right? Private int, you can see for the name of the method, sum. Sum starts with a capital letter, right? We have two parameters, num1 and num2. You see, we would like to return num1 plus num2. Okay? So we need a statement to tell the method what is the returned value. If you don't have that statement, C# will give you an error to tell you a return value is missing. Okay? You have to have a statement to tell C# what will be the returned value. Okay? What will be the returned value? So you also notice that the data type and of the return value and the methods data must match. For example, int num1, int num2, right? Sum, the method itself is int, right? So it means because of the method itself is int type, we have to return a int value. Okay, it has to be consistent. For example, if we return 7.5m, that is an error. C# will tell you that the return value is not compatible with the type of the method. Okay, you get error for that. Okay. So in the above example, the method is an int method, so it can only return an int value. Okay, that is the concept. Okay.